You think of yourself as a critical thinker. You question things. You fact-check. You read more than most people around you. And yet, the very thing you believe is protecting you from manipulation may be the exact thing making you more vulnerable to it. That's not an insult. It's a documented psychological mechanism that researchers have spent decades trying to explain. And once you understand it, you will never look at the news, at social media, or at your own confident opinions the same way again. Here's what most people think propaganda is. They imagine it as something crude, poorly made posters, obvious lies repeated loudly, something designed to fool the uneducated, something you would spot immediately. But that picture is wrong. Not just a little wrong, completely inverted. Propaganda doesn't work best on people with low intelligence. It works best on people with high intelligence. And the reason why will make your skin crawl. In the 1990s, a psychologist named Dan Kahan at Yale Law School began studying what he called identity protective cognition. The premise was simple. When a belief becomes part of your identity, when it connects to the group you belong to, the values you hold, the person you believe yourself to be, your brain does not evaluate that belief with logic. It defends it. And the smarter you are, the better your brain is at finding reasons to keep believing what it already believes. Kahan tested this across thousands of participants. He gave them data, real data, on topics like gun control and climate change. People with stronger numeracy skills, meaning people who were better at math and logic, were actually more likely to interpret the same data in opposite directions, depending on their political identity. They weren't reasoning, they were rationalizing. And they were doing it with elite precision. This is the trap. Intelligence does not protect you from bias. It arms your bias. It gives your existing beliefs better weapons. Now, go back further. Go back to the 1930s. Joseph Goebbels, the Reich Minister of Propaganda for Nazi Germany, understood something about human psychology that most people still refuse to accept. He didn't aim his most powerful campaigns at the uneducated. He aimed them at doctors, professors, lawyers, and engineers. He understood that educated people had something the uneducated did not, a desperate need to feel like their beliefs were arrived at logically. Give an intelligent person a conclusion dressed in the language of evidence, and they will build their own cage of reasoning around it. They will defend it as if they invented it. This is not ancient history. It is a blueprint that is still being used. Think about the last time you changed your mind about something political. Not a small preference, a core belief, something you felt deeply. Can you actually remember the moment you updated it based on evidence? Or did you find ways to reframe the evidence until it matched what you already thought? Leon Festinger, a social psychologist at the University of Minnesota, studied what happens when people encounter information that directly contradicts their beliefs. He called the discomfort this causes cognitive dissonance, and what he found was disturbing. Rather than updating their beliefs to match the new information, most people updated their interpretation of the information to match their beliefs. They twisted facts to fit their worldview, and the stronger the belief, the more aggressively the brain would fight off anything threatening it. But here's where it gets stranger and darker. Brendan Nyhan and Jason Reifler, two researchers at Dartmouth College, published a study in 2010 that identified what they called the backfire effect. They showed participants news articles that contained factual corrections to political misinformation, things that were provably false, corrected by real data. What happened? Participants who held the original false belief didn't just reject the correction. Their belief in the false claim grew stronger after seeing the correction. The correction itself became evidence of a conspiracy to mislead them. The very attempt to fix the belief reinforced it. Your brain, when it feels attacked, does not open. It closes. And if you are smart, it closes faster, harder, and with more sophisticated justifications than a brain that was never trained to construct arguments. This is what makes modern propaganda so precise. It doesn't need to create false beliefs from scratch. It only needs to give your existing ones a flag to wave, a language to speak, a community to belong to. Because that's the other piece Goebbels understood, and that modern information architects understand even better today. Propaganda is not primarily about information. It is about identity. When a belief becomes who you are, correcting it feels like an attack on your existence. You would sooner fight the corrector than examine the belief. Philip Tetlock, a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, spent 2 decades studying how experts make predictions. He called his participants hedgehogs and foxes, a distinction borrowed from an ancient Greek poem. Hedgehogs knew one big thing. They had one central organizing theory about the world, and they applied it to everything. Foxes knew many small things. They held contradictory ideas in tension. They updated constantly. The hedgehogs, the ones with the single grand theory, the confident worldview, the airtight ideology, performed worse at prediction than dart-throwing monkeys. Literally, they were less accurate than random chance. And yet they were more confident. And yet they were often the most credentialed people in the room. That confidence is the point of entry. Propaganda does not target doubt, it targets certainty. The more certain you are, the more useful you are to whoever is doing the shaping. Here's how it works in practice. An institution, a media outlet, a government, an algorithm, identifies what you already believe, what you already fear, what you already want to be true. It doesn't contradict those things, it amplifies them. It gives you more examples, more evidence, more language, more enemies. And as it feeds you, it narrows your view so gradually that you don't notice the narrowing. You just feel increasingly clear, increasingly certain, increasingly right. And the smarter you are, the richer the narrative you will build around that certainty. The more historical examples you will find, the more logical frameworks you will construct. You become not just a believer, you become an advocate, a defender, a spreader. You do the work for them. The people most likely to share a piece of propaganda are not the ones who can't evaluate it. They are the ones who have evaluated it, through a mind that was already made up and concluded it was true. This is why studies consistently show that misinformation spreads faster when it confirms an existing belief. Not because people are stupid, but because the evaluation process itself is compromised before it begins. So what does this mean for you? It means that the moment you feel absolutely certain about something, especially something political, especially something that makes a clear villain out of a group you already distrust, that is precisely the moment to slow down. Not because you are wrong, you might be right, but because the feeling of certainty is the most reliable indicator that your reasoning has stopped and your defending has begun. Tetlock's foxes were not smarter than the hedgehogs. They were more comfortable with uncertainty. They held beliefs loosely. They updated often. They didn't need to be right. They needed to understand. And that posture, that willingness to sit inside a question without immediately building walls around an answer, is one of the only real defenses against the machinery that wants to hand you your conclusions pre-assembled. Goebbels knew it. Kahan measured it. Festinger named it. And every algorithm designed to maximize your engagement is built around it. You are being read. Every second you spend online, every article you click, every reaction you give, you are contributing data to a system that is learning how to speak to you specifically. Not to groups, to you. To your particular brand of certainty. To the exact flavor of your existing beliefs. That is not a conspiracy theory. It is a business model. And the only question that matters is, when did you last genuinely change your mind? Not shift your framing. Not find a new way to say the same thing. Actually change the belief. Hold a different view than you held a year ago. Because if you can't remember, if every new piece of information you encounter only ever confirms what you already believed, then you are not thinking. You are being thought for. You started today believing you were a critical thinker. You question things. You fact-check. You read more than most people around you. And every one of those things is true. They just aren't enough, because the mind that evaluates the information and the mind that wants the information to confirm its existing beliefs are the exact same mind. And sometimes, the smartest thing that mind does is make sure you never notice the difference.